everybody. I'm Terry Brown. This is Bass 365 Live, and I'm sitting in for Ricky today. Actually, he's out in the back room here a little bit, but what we're going to do is we're going to talk to Dakota Ebare, and he just came off a big win on Sam Rayburn. And I sit in every once in a while for him, and Ricky and I have been good friends for a lot of years, and it's kind of neat to do this. I like getting back into this a little bit. I did it for a lot of years and a lot of other properties I've been involved with, but it's kind of neat to be able to sit back in this chair, get to talk to some of these young guys that I may or may not know well. Every time I do one of these now, it seems like I have to do a lot more research. If I had Larry Nixon on, I could talk to him for 2 weeks about a haircut. But when you get the new guys, you want to know what the little odds and ends of things that make them special. And that's what we're going to do today with Dakota. And Dakota's actually down fishing at the Harris chain. And I think he was rigging stuff in his boat. So maybe we can get a hold of him here right now.
Hey, guys, I'm glad y'all have me, man. I appreciate y'all.
Well, hello, Dakota. It's funny. I have to do research on guys like you. I mean, I have to get out, dig, do that kind of stuff. And it really wasn't that hard to dig because you fish that many tournaments. You're fishing tournaments all the time, and through the Bass Pro Tour and now the Toyotas with the big win at Sam Rayburn. It's got to make you feel pretty good to get that W. I mean, you've been fishing for a long time and fishing probably as many tournaments as anybody does, but getting that big win had to be special for you, especially at Rayburn.
It really was, super thankful to get that win there at home in front of my family and friends and at a lake that has been really good to me over the years, taught me a lot about bass fishing and everything. It was really special. It was a really special deal.
Well, it's one of my favorite lakes in the whole country. I mean, I got 4 or 5 that I think are really special. And, I love the Stump. I love going down there. I love hanging around down there around Jasper.
Good old Stump.
Yeah, I think there's a picture or two of me in there, probably a lot younger pictures, but we always went down to the steak fries all the time, come down there and spend a couple of weeks and go fishing and hang out and go to the tackle stores and stuff. But, the thing that makes it unique is that just about any kind of thing you'd fish across the country, you can kind of pattern the same way at Rayburn, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That lake is very volatile. It's always changing. Sometimes the water's high. There's flooded bushes everywhere. Sometimes the water's low. Sometimes there's grass. Sometimes there's not. You can always catch them shallow. You can always catch them deep. And it's always changing. So you have to keep up with it. Added pressure on the lake makes it difficult as well. So it'll keep you on your toes. It's a great place to learn how to fish.
Well, now with the extended, when we all started, when I started in particular, we used a rock and a string. I'm just kidding, but now you've got this advanced electronics, and you can dial into things. It seems a bit quicker. I mean, you're not going to be able to make them bite, but you can figure out where they're at. And it sounds like at this Rayburn tournament, you had 2 or 3 places that you were able to do that with Strike King products in particular, with 6XD, some of the other things you were throwing. Tell us a little bit about how your days went.
Man, it was just kind of one of those deals where everything just finally came together. I had Monday to practice, and the weather was really bad on Tuesday, but Monday the weather was perfect. My mom and I went out and we spent the whole day on the water and was able to find 3 or 4 groups of big pre-spawn females that were staging, just kind of classic areas, and just was fortunate to find them, and then the first day of the tournament got canceled because of the wind. The second day was still blowing pretty hard, but it was still pretty fishable, and I was pretty disappointed. I only had 16 and a half pounds, and I had one 7-pounder that really carried me through that day. But I had opportunities. I had a really big one on 6XD that got me wrapped around some brush or something, and I couldn't get her out, and she broke me off, and I missed a couple on an A-rig. So I was pretty frustrated going into the second day of competition, which is actually the third day. And fortunately, though, the stars lined, and it went down pretty quickly that morning.
Well, 32 pounds isn't a bad day. I don't care where you're at,
No,
and especially for bass, you think about the lakes that have produced over these 30-pound stringers, and it's pretty much a handful. It's not a lot of them that do that, and to have that on the last day of a big event like that had to be special.
It really was, man. It really was. And I was actually, really disappointed heading into weigh-in because I didn't feel like I had enough to win. I knew that some guys were going to catch them really good, and I estimated my weight to be around 29, 28 pounds, somewhere around that. And I had, missed a couple other really big ones that, that was really kind of hurt me on the way back to weigh-in because I just knew that I was going to fall a little short of what I needed to have. And then it turned out, that I had a little more than I thought and ended up winning. So, it all worked out, but I was sick to the stomach the whole way back to weigh in because I just knew that I'd missed out on opportunities to have a truly giant bag, and I felt like that's what I needed at that time to win.
Well, there'd been a couple 40-pound bags, actually a 41-pound bag right there when it's about the same time you were there. And
Yeah,
you start, in Illinois where I live, a 41-pound bag is a year. That's what we accumulate over a year's process of 41. But
yeah.
I love Rayburn for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's so big you can do your own thing. There's a lot of different patterns you can fish at the same time. Is the grass still really good there, or is it kind of pulled back? Tell me about it a little bit.
It's as good as it's been in the last probably 4 years, I would say. It's really coming on strong. The lake's been low for the better part of the last year. After a couple years of really high water, the lake's actually been low now, and the grass is really taken off, and it looks good. And I'm very excited to see that because the lake needs it, and it's going to really help us on recruitment and spawns and everything if it can just stay. Unfortunately, they've been getting some weather. The lake's been rising, so as long as it'll rise gradually and doesn't get too muddy and don't get too cold of weather, it should stay. And if it can make it to March, and it continue that growing pattern that it's doing now, it's going to be really good fishing come summertime. I mean, guys could be flipping grass in 10 to 12, maybe even 13 foot of water. So that
Tell
would
me,
be kind of like the old school Rayburn that I've never got to see.
tell me a little bit about water temperature. I know that's key to these big pre-spawners. Tell me a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, once, the water is actually a little bit warmer than what you would have thought after as cold as it had been at times this winter. The water was still in the mid 50s. And, you know, anytime that water is from 55 to 62, like those fish, they kind of winter in some of the same areas that they're really like the bigger fish seem to kind of winter in some of the same areas that they pre-spawn in, and they don't have to. I don't think they ever really move very far. Like some of those bigger groups of fish, they live in the same and spawn in the same areas. I think they spawn deeper than most people think, and I think that they just kind of live in a general area, and they spend the winter here. They'll stage pre-spawn here, and then they'll spawn here, and then they go right back here. So I don't ever think they go very far.
Well, we talked a little bit about the 6XD. What were some of the other baits you used in your 32-pound bag?
So I actually I kind of junk fished my way, just trying to get them to react to something different. But I definitely caught one or two. I caught one really big one on a 6XD. I actually had the first big one that I caught was on the 6XD, and she was probably between 7 and 8. And at one point in time in that, I threw it out there, got to the bottom, hooked up with the 8 pounder. She comes up, tail walks out of the water, goes back down, comes back up, and there's a 5 pounder on the other hook. And so I thought, well, there's no way this is going to actually work out. But by the time it all was said and done, the 5 pounder come off, but I got the 8 pounder. And
Good
by the time,
trade-off.
yeah. So by the time I got it all undone and everything,
1956 at AOL.com.
that's not
I'm
me.
sorry about that. It never fails. You go all afternoon, you have about 3 phone calls, you get on an interview, and that happens.
Yeah,
Um,
mine's been ringing nonstop. But yeah, I caught that one on the 6XD, and then I caught one of the really big ones, probably a 9 pounder on a jerk bait. I caught one of the nines on an A rig, and then I caught a really nice one on another. My other decent fish was on a football jig, and then I guess the smallest one I have is 3.5, and it also come on a football jig.
well, not to give out any trade secrets, what jerk bait did you throw?
I was on the KVD 300 series deep diving jerk bait.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've everybody at Strike King will tell you that jerk bait has been stepped up a lot. Back in the days when I was fishing all over everywhere, they were kind of like a stick, or a clothespin or something. I mean, they weren't
Hmm.
good baits. Now they're really premium quality baits
Yeah.
at Strike King.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can get I think it's the KVD Pro now is the new one that they just come out with. It's got some updated colors. They look really good. They also come stock with must-add triple grip hooks, which I use mostly owner hooks, but the triple grip is tried and true. It's a good hook as well, and you can buy that bait ready to go.
Well, you've got a factory there that just keeps putting them out. It's amazing the pressure that's at Rayburn and the fish that just keep coming out of it. And whether you like to creek fish or throw a rattle bait or whatever, it seems like there's always a bite there. And it's amazing to me how well the Texas fisheries take care of that body of water in particular. Of course, we know about Lake Fork and we know about some of the others down there. OH Ivy is kicking everybody's tail too. But, you got out of there to primo time because that big ice storm came right up, probably chased you to Florida, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I traveled with Kyle Hall some, and he's on the way down here for the Invitational at Okeechobee, and he's actually a day late because he couldn't get out of Granbury, Texas, because of all the ice. So it's been great. It's been warm. I'm staying with some friends here that I fished with over the years, and it's been a good time hanging out with them, and also the weather's been 85 every day, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, well, we're not going to talk about that because I think it's going to be like 16 with 20-mile-an-hour wind chill, tonight. But, we're about to come out of it. Next week for us is supposed to be in the 60s. So, I mean, that's in the
Yeah.
Midwest. So that means it's really going to be warm down south. I look at careers, and I get to do this a lot in my current job. And I did radio and television for a long, long time. And it's nice to see the fresh young guys that we're getting coming out like yourself and some of the others. Now, BPT, the BP Bass Pro Tour, is going to change some things this year. They're
Mm-hmm.
still going to have the multiple day catch and all the different fish being caught at some of the special events. How is that going to change your outlook? Is it pretty much how you're going to fish just like you did before? With the keeping 5 fish or the 5 largest fish, is that going to be something that is going to be important to you, or is that going to change your game plan at all?
No, it's not going to change anything. I'm not really big on all that stuff. If, you figure them out. It doesn't matter what the format is. You either figure them out or you don't. And that's, and you catch them or you don't. It really didn't. With the 2 pound minimum and stuff, it wasn't like you could just go around with a spinning pole and catch little ones. I mean, you had to catch good ones in every event last year. I mean, you look at Fork, even at Darbon, I mean, guys caught quality there. They definitely caught quality at Caney. They definitely caught quality at Bussy. I mean, guys were catching 12 pounders. And then you look at Fork, I mean, I had 30 to 35 pounds a day, my best 5, right? And I finished second. So I'm sure Alton Jones Jr. had the same kind of weight. Smith Lake was probably the little bit different one, but I mean, it's Smith Lake. It's kind of, I'm sure guys that did well in that would have averaged probably 2.5 to 3 pounds, and that's good there, all the way up to Lake of the Ozarks took heavy weights. Cayuga obviously took really heavy weights. I had almost 30 pounds of smallmouth one day. So I never approached a Bass Pro Tour event with the Every Fish Counts format any differently than I approached any Pro Circuit event last year or Toyota Series event. I just go in there with an open mind, trying to get, I guess, used to current conditions, and I went fishing. And, the format really didn't affect me that much.
Well,
Now,
you're still going to catch them all, right? I mean, you're still going to catch what you catch, and you're going to weigh them and all that kind of stuff. But it's only the
right.
5 largest that you get away for the total, correct?
Well, a lot of guys are worried about like the excitement factor of the every fish counts and like knowing that guys are never safe, right? Because I mean, if you pull up on your first spot. So with all that being said, like there is a strategy to the score tracker, being able to know where you stand, know when to quit, know when to keep catching them, knowing if you have a chance to win the round and automatically advance, stuff like that. There's some strategy in all that, but I mean it's pretty common sense. I mean, it's pretty simple stuff, right?
Well,
But
let's talk a little bit. I want to get some questions that I had questions of. I mean, it says in your bio that you were a bullfighter. So I had this impression of this guy with a funny hat and a cape and a. Actually, is that a clown? Is that a guy that gets the bulls off the riders, or what is that? What is a
yeah,
bullfighter?
yeah, cowboy protection. So at rodeos and stuff, you've got a guy that's riding bulls or whatever, and whenever he either gets bucked off or jumps off, it was our job to distract the bull and get him away from the bull rider and make sure everybody got out of the arena safely. So
I
that
laugh.
was a previous life of mine.
I laugh about it because if I was a bullfighter, I'd have to have a gun. That's
Right.
that's where I'd have to be. I'd have to have some way that because if he's going to chase me, I'm going to lose. That's the way it's going to work there. Now, how
Well, I
long did
don't care.
how long did you do that?
I did it for a while, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, I guess, probably. And
Wow.
that's what led me to Texas. I moved to Texas to rodeo and ended up going to school at Tarleton State University in Stephenville, Texas. It's the cowboy capital of the world. Had a great time there, but I met some great guys. Were on the bass fishing team and become friends with them. Started fishing college tournaments, and the rest is history. Here we are.
Well, you fish a ton of tournaments. You're fishing Toyotas. You're actually at one now, and you just came from one, and you got the BPT coming up around the corner here in a week or so, or the next week, I guess. And then, it's just like, do you think that keeps you more keyed into what fish are doing, or does it mess you up if you travel long distances?
No, absolutely. It does keep you more keyed in. I mean, I kind of take a rodeo approach to fishing in a sense that, all my buddies that are still rodeoing to this day, that most of them ride bulls and stuff, and they go from one rodeo to the next, and that's just the way it is. If you get thrown off one night, you go get on another one the next night, and you keep a positive mindset. You don't just keep wallowing around in it, Like you take this week, for example, I just finished up here on the Harris chain. I don't feel like I had a bad event. I had a pretty tough practice. It's a pretty tough fishery in general at this time with as much pressure as getting 260 boats. I had a game plan going in and it didn't work out. And I ended up probably finishing around 80th or something, didn't get a check. But tomorrow I'm going to drive to Okeechobee and I'll start practice on Saturday for the Invitational event. This event, I'll learn from it and we're moving on. And being able to jump right back in another event, stay fresh on my mistakes and to learn and get a little bit better each day is really important to me.
Give me your thoughts on the invitationals. That's new this year. Tell me a little bit about what you think about it.
Well, man, I mean, the goal is for those guys is to get to the Bass Pro Tour. The Bass Pro Tour opened up so many opportunities for me from a business standpoint last year, having some success there. The off season was great for me. I've got some great new business partners that I'll be announcing and talking about in the next couple weeks and stuff. And I'm very thankful for that. So the Invitational is a very clear path to guys having that opportunity as well. And, it also still gives the guys a place to make a living. I mean, the payouts are pretty decent, and comparable to other tours of that level. And, I think it's just a good opportunity for guys to make some money and to have an opportunity to qualify for the Bass Pro Tour. For us, as already qualified for the BPT, if we're not fishing for points, but it gives us an opportunity to go and fish, compete, get better, and make a living, right? I mean, so
Right.
them allowing us to fish, that's a big deal because, you take a guy like myself and only fishing 7 BPT events a year, that's not, you might make a lot of money, but in reality, that money goes quickly. Right. So having more opportunities to make money is very important in this business.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I see your stable of sponsors. You got some good ones, and I know you said you're going to make some more announcements. But I look at electronics, engine, boat. You're in a Phoenix. Tell me a little bit about electronics. Are you using a Myriad? Or are you using just one company? Tell me a little bit about that.
No, I'm working with Garmin this year, so I'm running exclusively Garmin products. It's the first year that I've done that. I've been very, very pleased with them so far. Obviously, first tournament using all Garmin, I win. So no complaints here. They have very dependable units. The mapping is getting really, really good. The side imaging's comparable to everything else. I mean, I found those fish. I could see them just fine with my side imaging at Rayburn, I'm speaking of. And I actually seen some fish here. The fish I caught here at Harris Chain, I found on my side imaging. And obviously, you put the trolling motor down, you've got forward-facing sonar, and they're second to none when it comes to that. And being able to really pick apart the little nuances of those areas is very important to kind of my game plan. So,
are we
really, really looking forward to working with them.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Are we educating these fish? Because I know I've talked to several guys, Spencer Sheffield, some of the guys who are really, really good at the same technology, and they're saying sometimes you don't want to use it too much because of pinging, some of that kind of stuff. Have you noticed that, or not at all? Or tell me about that.
Well, we've been educating these fish since we started fishing. You look at an Alabama rig. You could throw that thing in the bar ditch on the side of the highway back when it first come out, and a 3-pounder come out of nowhere and eat it.
Right.
But they don't really eat it that well now. I mean, not nearly as. It's not any different than any other bait, right?
Right.
You take the whopper plopper when it come out. I mean, bass were just swimming out of nowhere to come eat a whopper plopper. It might have been in 40 foot of water. It's just a sound they had never heard. So we've been educating them since day one. Side imaging was another big breakthrough that totally changed the game, right? Forward-facing sonar is just another one, and we're not going to go back to using flip phones, I don't think. So it's here to stay, and it opens up more opportunities for the guys to go fishing and do different things. Guys are targeting fish in the middle of the lake that have never been targeted ever before.
Right.
those fish that we didn't even know they were out there. And some guys don't like that, but hey, from a bank fisherman's perspective, John Cox doesn't mind because that gives him more opportunities to go catch the same fish he's been catching for years and continue to
Absolutely.
make the same living he's been making for years. So, you can look at the situation in a negative aspect. You can look at it in a positive aspect, and that decision is yours. But the guys that are looking at it from a positive aspect are going to continue to be successful.
Well, you look at it, we're not using persimmon shafts in golf clubs either.
Yeah,
Everything's changing. The golf ball's getting different. Baseball's different. Everything's changing. I
right.
just was curious, when you pull up on a school of fish, are you leaving that running the whole time? Or are you saying maybe I ought to shut this down a little bit? I know where they're at. They're right there. What are my thought
But
processes that you'd go through?
there has been times where especially when I was using like 360 and stuff, like I would, because you can hear like a regular 2D sonar like pinging really. I can't really hear my live scope transducer just
Right.
pinging. So
Right.
I would turn off like my 2D stuff at times. I mean, I know I watch, I hear guys talk about that stuff running off fish. If anything, I see fish coming to my boat all the time. Every day I fight that. I mean, anybody that pays attention to forward facing sonar knows like fish are curious. They hear stuff, they come to your boat. So whether or not they bite then or not, it's different, right? But
Right.
those same
Right.
fish were coming to our boat before we ever had live scope on there. Everybody out there has got a 2D transducer that's out there pinging. And so that the live scope transducer is not making any more noise than a than a old 2D transducer that we
Right.
had when we flashers or something. So it that's their environment. When we enter it, they know we're there. So
Well, when you fished at Rayburn, and let's talk a little bit about Florida fishing too. I used to live in Jacksonville, Florida, which I used to fish Harris a little bit. And you've got different watercolor. You've got tannic water, maybe potentially down there a little bit. And Rayburn, you've got clear and you've got a little bit darker water. What were the line choices that you had at first at Rayburn and then at Harris?
at Rayburn, I use pretty much 17 on everything. Um, you know, I use 17 a lot for a lot of different stuff, but and down here I also use 17. I broke off a really big one today, so I wish I'd have had 20 on it. But I I kind of I don't use braid a whole lot. I kind of just mainly use fluorocarbon unless
Mm-hmm.
I'm fishing like very heavy vegetation. But I stopped what I was doing because I can't multitask. But I'm in the process right now of rigging up some stuff for Okeechobee, and obviously I'm going to have some heavier line, and I'm going to have a lot more braid, rigged up for frogs and swimming worm through dollar pads and stuff like that. Um, but I'm gonna keep a flipping stick in my hand and some heavier line a lot more next week than I did this week, and hopefully I don't get my butt kicked again like I did this week.
Well, if you give us a quick tutorial, when you choose braid, say you're flipping and pitching, do you use fluorocarbon at all in those conditions? Everybody's worried about this fish being line savvy, right? And it seems that when you're punching and you're doing those kind of things, it's not as important. Is that kind of your feeling as well?
I flip fluoro more so than I do braid. I do feel like they hear that braid going through stuff. It makes noise. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So
Right,
if we're
right.
worried about noise and stuff, I'm not as much worried about my transducer pinging as I am my trolling motor washing out stuff and the braids slipping through stuff. But I mean, I'm not going to flip into something that I know I can't get one out of. If I don't feel like I can get it out of there with fluoro, then I'm not going to flip fluoro in there. You know, but fluorocarbon's come a long ways, and if you flip heavy enough fluoro, you can really get them out of a lot of stuff. Pads and like matted vegetation are exceptions to that. I'm flipping braid because I need it to cut somewhat. Like at the James River last year, I flipped all braid when I got second there. Um, and I still kind of had trouble getting some of those fish out of those pads, but I wouldn't have been able to do that with fluorocarbon. But if I'm flipping isolated targets, buggy whips or something like that, I'm going to flip fluoro. I also flip fluoro when I'm flipping bushes. Braid does not help you get fish out of bushes. Braid helps you get fish wrapped in bushes and your line wrapped in bushes. So I just go up really high on fluorocarbon, like weight. I'll go up to 25-pound test, and it has about the same break strength that 60-pound braid does. In my opinion, I'm no specialist, but that's just my aspect on that. And with fluorocarbon, I can make probably I don't know, 25% more pitches because I'm not getting hung up nearly as much. Unless you're just like Andy Montgomery or something and you're that good at flipping and pitching. I'm not. I'll have it wrapped in 16 limbs up over the top of the next one by the time I get all said and done. So I need to use fluoro.
All right, you're fishing all kinds of different tournaments. You're fishing Toyotas. You're
Yeah.
fishing Invitational. You're mainly MLF. What are your goals? How do you, I know it's to make money. Okay, I get all that, and that's why you got your sponsors, and that's why you got all this other stuff going on, is to make as much cash as you possibly can. But don't you have maybe a few goals like Angler of the Year or winning a couple 100,000 a year? Or what are some of the goals in each of those leagues?
Man, my goal is just to do the best I can each and every day. And I don't look too far past that. You got to take care of the day, this one. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like, success is different for everybody. I would love to win AOI. I would love to win a few events this year. Like, those are things I want to do. But all I can control is today. And
Mm-hmm.
so I live kind of
Good
day to
call.
day, and I am honestly, like, I don't really think a whole lot about. I mean, I want to, the goal is to make a lot of money. I want to buy some land. I want to have my own ranch one day. Like, those are my goals long term, right?
Right.
In order for me to do that, I've got to catch a lot of bass and win a lot of money. In order for me to do that, I have to be successful every day. And today, like, I got beat today on Harris, but it was still a successful day because I learned and I got better. I'm frustrated about it, but I know, like, I'll be better next time I go to Harris Chain, and it may be in a BPT event or something. I'll be better the next Florida tournament I have because of the experience that I had today. So that's kind of the way my outlook is on really the whole entire season. Let's just take it day at a time and do
Mm-hmm.
the best we can with the opportunities we have.
Well, your past experiences as you got your first win, but there was a lot of times you were really close. And
Mm-hmm.
what was? I mean, there's a thing Denny Brower told me one time. He said once you win one, it's easier to win the second one. Do you feel like that's a psyche you want to have? I mean, I would. If I want to win that second one. He said that there's something to get you over the hump that allows you to be able to see what it's like to win besides the money, besides the trophy, besides all that, there's something in your head that clicks. Did you have that?
Well, it didn't. I didn't win this week at Harris Chain because they flat whooped me. They didn't care about last week. But
Right.
I do feel like well, I can hope. I mean, let's see how the year goes. Let's see how they're. I mean, I I I see that as a trend in people. You look at Michael Neal. It took him a long time to win one. Although he was as consistent as anyone on tour for years, but when he did, I mean, he's won two AOYs, won tournaments, everything. So I'm hoping that maybe that'll work out for me in the same way. But I would say that it's probably like it is a breath of fresh air for me to finally get that win. To I guess for it to like say, hey, look, I'm not cursed. There's not nothing like I can do it, which I know that's
Right.
kind of crazy to say because obviously, like, I believed I can do it, but being that close that many times kind of takes a mental toll on you. So, I mean, I can't lie and say that there's not a huge weight lifted off my shoulders to finally get that win. And I hope that the next win's easier, but I'm sure that it won't be. Fishing will humble you quickly. So, I'm not going to think any differently than I did before that win. I'm just going to keep working hard and we'll see where it goes.
It seems like though when you win one, all these guys you talked about, Michael Neal, about Wheeler, all these different guys who win one, seems like it just kind of grows on itself. And it might be a confidence factor. It could be, making the right decisions on the water. You mentioned that, taking one day at a time. Sometimes you have to change up, don't you? You have to just go and say, throw out this game plan. It's not working and go do something else, don't you?
Well, confidence is everything, and there's a fine line between confidence and being cocky, or being arrogant or anything like that. But anybody who's successful has confidence. I mean, you just inevitably you have to have that, right? You have
Right.
to believe in yourself. You have to trust your decision making. And every day that I'm on the water, my confidence gets a little bit higher, right? Because I learn to trust my decisions a little bit more, and you can't do it without that. So I would say that my confidence has increased. With finally getting that victory. I caught myself doing a couple things this week at the Harris Chain that I probably wouldn't have done if I wouldn't have won last week. For one, because I was fishing these Toyota Series to qualify for the championship on Table Rock. Well, I'm already qualified for that championship now. So I made some kind of bold moves this week because I wanted to try to have an opportunity to win. and it didn't really work out. But that's part of the game we play, right? I mean, I chose to go to a lake that I knew wasn't going to have as much fishing pressure. I knew was going to be tougher for me to, probably do really well at. But I knew that if I found something there by myself, I could, it might be really, really good, and so, that's just kind of some of those things that you do, I guess, whenever you're fishing to win. And I really feel like over the last year or so, I've really kind of started fishing that way. And it's got me a lot closer, several times throughout the course of the last, 12 months, and then finally got it done at Rayburn.
Well, at Harris, you got Harris, Eustis, Griffin. You got all these different bodies of water. Little Harris, all these different bodies of water. With 500 anglers, doesn't it get a little crowded?
Oh man, it was a nightmare. I'll be okay if I never have to fish another 260 boat tournament at Harris Chain. I can guarantee you. But that's all part of it.
Yep.
And that challenge aspect of it, really totally changes everything because, if you were fishing a Bass Pro Tour event there, you're fishing against 40 guys, you wouldn't even hardly see another guy maybe,
Right.
and it would totally change the way that you would approach that event. So you can't really compare those, but man, hats off to the guys that are really catching them this week because they worked hard to do that. I mean, that's a heck of an accomplishment to do that 2 days in a row. There's a couple of guys that caught them 2 days in a row, and to do that on this place with that many boats and that much pressure is one heck of a feat.
Well, you look at careers and how careers develop, and it wasn't that long ago, nobody knew who Dakota Ebare was, right? I mean, it wasn't that long ago. Your buddies and pals and the people in Texas probably did, but now you're getting this national reputation. Are you seeing the amount of time that you've got available that when you're not fishing diminish somewhat because you're having to do sponsor obligations and all that kind of stuff? Has that changed for you at all yet, or is that something you see maybe it's going to happen in a while?
Well, it's definitely changing. I mean, it's more of a business now than what it has been, and or what it was. But that was the goal, right? I mean, that's the goal. We're all out here running our individual own businesses, and
Right.
and in order, so this is I'm taking that with welcome arms, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because I've worked really hard over the last 7 or 8 years to get to this point, to have those opportunities to be on this podcast with you, or to have the opportunities to work with some of the sponsors that I'm working with now. Working with Strike King and Lose, I remember vividly winning my first event, my first local tournament when I was 17 years old in New Roads, Louisiana on False River with Strike King baits then. And I could just, watching Kevin and all those guys on TV, this was only a dream, away. And it's just surreal to be now competing against those guys, working with Strike King. I mean, wow, that's really cool to be able to look back on that and see the progression and how all the stuff's played out. So I'm very thankful for that.
Even though Strike Kings is changing a little bit, they're still family to me. And it's the family of people that are behind the baits are as every bit as important as the baits themselves sometimes. We got a note here from Jaw Dropper Plastics, okay? And he says, I nicknamed you Mr. Consistency last year. I'm impressed how you are always in the top. Very impressive. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it's
So,
awesome.
you're getting feedback. It's amazing in this sport because it's so hard to watch on the water. It's not like you go to a football stadium or baseball diamond or whatever. It's hard to keep up with. And because the things change so much, whether it's a BPT or the Bass Elites or whatever, they're always changing. So it's hard to watch. And I love the fan perspective as much as I do anything else, is that you got some diehard people out here that just want to see how you do and are watching you every day, trying to learn from you. It's one of the only sports you can't go ahead and play NFL if you're a guy like me. But you can go out and emulate what Dakota does. And I think that's one of the coolest things about our sport.
Yeah, it really is cool, man, because, it was a very short time ago whenever, I was outside looking in and now here we are. So, if I can do it, kind of anybody can do it. I really do have that opinion if they set their mind to it and work hard enough at it. But I do really like interacting and being able to meet all the people that I've met over the last, several years doing this. I'm staying with a really good friend of mine, Laramie Strickland, and his at his parents' house, and I met him through fishing, and I've met so many great people traveling all over the country that it's been an awesome experience, and that's one of the really things I really like about this. And I am going to be working more I'm probably going to try to get a YouTube channel established, working with a company that's going to help me do that because I really don't have a lot of time. I've really focused more on being a successful tournament angler than I have being an influencer. I
Right.
really, that wasn't, I've done this kind of backwards as opposed to what I think a lot of people are trying to do now in the industry. I don't really agree with that. Like, I felt like I needed to have success on the water in tournaments to have that validation to say, hey, like, to have people like want to follow me. I wasn't gonna try to be famous on social media first and then be a professional
Right.
angler. I want
Right.
to be a successful professional angler, and then if people want to have interest in what I'm doing, then I'll be glad to share that with them. And so we're transitioning into that, and with this success, people wanting to follow and stuff. I really appreciate that. I think it's awesome, and I'm gonna do my best to put more content out there and to allow people to follow along a little easier. So we're going to try to work on the YouTube channel. I'm going to continue to post on Instagram and Facebook, doing a little bit of stuff on TikTok, but I, I'm going to get better at that aspect of it, right? But I'm still going to focus on fishing, and all of my business partners that I work with now, like, it's kind of one of the first things I say up front. Look, guys, I'm 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 my job is to be successful on the water, and
Right.
if I can continue doing that, right, I'm going to be able to represent you better, and people are going to believe what I have to say whenever I say, hey, this bait's what you need to use, right, or this is why I do this. And so I kind of always continue to put that first, right? I mean, because that's what's got me here, right? But I
I
really do.
agree. I agree, and I applaud that because I think that if you keep at the consistent level you're at, you're not going to have to worry about fans. You're going to have them because everybody's going to be wanting to pick your brain like we are here today, and find out
Right.
what makes you click and what makes you tick. Now, I haven't asked you this. How old are you?
I'm 30.
See, you're a pup. I got socks that
Well,
are 30.
I feel like I'm behind, man. You look at what Jordan Lee's accomplished, and he's 31, 32 years old. But, everybody walks a different path in life, and everybody has their own set of shoes they walk in. So, I feel like I got started a little bit later, but I also, spent a lot of time in college and got a couple of degrees and a solid fallback plan. So I really didn't start fishing professionally until I think I was 26. So, it's all in the perspective. Wheeler had done won $2 million by the time he was 26, but he's also Jacob Wheeler.
Well, here's the deal. I'm telling you right now, 30 is a great age because you've got a little bit of experience, you got a little bit of non-spinning out in your pocket, and now you're going to be able to. You sound like a young man that is right, got everything kind of dialed in on how you want to do this, and because
Mm-hmm.
just like Jaw Dropper Plastic said, you're Mr. Consistency, and I think that's how you're going to be successful down the pike. We've got the Flame Stomper 3 as RJ and Alexis say hi and hope to see you this summer. Keep up the good work and good luck. And
Oh
then we
yeah,
got
that's
another.
part of my Champlain family right there. RJ
There
and
you
Alexis
go.
are awesome. I usually try to take them fishing when I get up there, and they always, they're always bringing me all kind of snacks and beef jerky and all kind of stuff. Just great. Another example of some great people that I've met along this fishing trail that I'm very thankful for.
Well, having fans also saves you money on staying places. That's the way I look at it. One
That's
other
right.
one, a young man by the name of Adam, he gets in here and he says, "Hey, I'm getting ready to use LiveScope, and I'm hoping that it does what that it does for me. For that it's done for you, it does for him. And really, you got to get out there and work at it, don't you? LiveScope is not one of those things that you just turn it on and go away from it. You're always adjusting, you're always tweaking.
That's the same with any electronics that you might use, but yeah, LiveScope especially, man. I mean, that you can watch. I encourage you to watch all the videos out there, the content out there to kind of help you get familiarized with the stuff. But until you get out there and you spend time with your foot on that trolling motor and looking at that screen, that's the only way to really be able to understand and comprehend what's going on out there on on that screen. But I truly feel like I'm sticking my head underneath the water with some goggles whenever I put that trolling motor down, and
Yep.
I use it as a very good, it's a very big part of my game. Guys ask me, how much did you use live scope whenever you won last week? Well, I mean, I wasn't necessarily going around targeting individual fish in 40 foot of water. I was fishing quite shallow, but I'm always looking at it. You're crazy
Right.
not to, right?
Right. Right.
It's whether it's just seeing a little bit of bait over here or seeing that one stump over there or whatever it is. I mean, it's a tool, a very valuable one.
Well, I'm respecting your time. I'm also respecting the daylight. This looks like you're right now,
It's
with
dark.
the way it looks right now, it looks like you've been convicted of some felony, and there's a guy talking to you, and you're incognito, is what it looks like. We're gonna bring Ricky back in and end this thing up. But I mean, yeah, sorry you got caught. You know, that's where I'm at right now. But Dakota, it's been a pleasure. I hope I get to do this again. I hope I get to see you again. And I really like talking to the new anglers that are out there, because you guys have a whole breath of fresh air perspective, and it's really neat to see guys like you doing well. So we appreciate your time.
Well, I really appreciate you having me, man. It's been a pleasure. I think the mosquitoes are probably going to pick me up and carry me out of my boat if I.
I kind of thought that. I see it. They look like birds flying around behind you. Ricky,
yeah,
all yours.
Birds. I think.
There you go. You're muted yet, Ricky.
Yeah, I didn't unmute myself. Let me bring him back on here real quick. Hey, Dakota, thanks for being on here, bud. We'll see you next week. Get inside.
All right, guys.
All right, man. Bye. Terry, great show. Way to pull the information out of him, man. It's awesome. Thank you for doing this for us.
I'll try to do more. My big thing, you know, of course, you know how spring is.
Absolutely.
You know, and then the fall, of course, everything's going on. But I love doing these. I love doing these, and I think I'm very thankful that you asked me to.
Well, so having you on here is a big deal for me, because just, you know, of our friendship and the knowledge that you bring to the table is the interviews are amazing. I mean, it really is. It really is good. I like watching them. But I tell you what, man, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get ready to close this thing down, Terry. I'll be in touch, and we'll get another one lined up as soon as we can.
Yeah, we might have a guy by the name of Brandon Polinick going down the road here just a little bit. So, you know, he's had a little success. We may get to talk to him a little bit. But thank you, Rick. I appreciate it.
Just a bit. We'll have to get Nicholas in on that one, too, because they got a little history.
Good at it. He loves that guy. You betcha. Have a great day.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Bye.